Hello everybody. I'd like to take a few minutes to talk to you about the Culminating module. Just give you a few thoughts. I'm sure all of you have started the module by now, or the assignment I should say. But I just want to clarify a couple points and talk a little bit about it. I guess I could have done this video a bit earlier, but nevertheless, here we go. I'll just point out one reason why I might not have done this video earlier is I'm actually at my friend's house on this beautiful lake here in rural Nova Scotia. And it's just absolutely stunning outside at the moment. Anyways, let's have a look. So here we go. Here's the assignment. Now I did refer to some of you to this video. I thought it was earlier in the course, and now I see why I couldn't find it, because it's actually in the last module. So don't forget to watch this. It's very interesting. So let's just see here. You will envision what connected learning could look like in your professional context. So there's two parts. Let's have a look at the first part. So you're designing, it's an individual project, but you're going to design a connected classroom project. So this should have an actual set of activities, complete with learning objectives, instructions, relevant content, and in a final presentation format. So on that note, one thing I'm always telling students in this master's program is if you're creating presentation materials, I always try to design my own in a way that teachers could use them to understand an assignment, but the students can also use them to understand the assignment. So it's really about saving time and energy. And it also, however, allows us to really be on the same page. So sometimes when I see here's the teacher's version and here's the student's version, they're not the same. So it creates a bit of confusion between the teachers and the students and other teachers who may be borrowing or using some work that you've done. So just a thought there. It does say an actual set of activities. So I want to see and I want to understand what will the students do with your in the project. And what are the objectives? So, any good learning thing is good learning activity has, what's our goal? What do we hope to get out of this? What are we going to do? The actual set of activities. What content do we need to know? And then how will we know we've been successful? And so it doesn't actually mention including an assessment in the project, but I fully expect that students especially will know what they need to do to be successful in this project. It doesn't necessarily have to come out to a grade and all of that. The teachers can worry about that later. But the students themselves need to know how they can be successful. And so a good assessment tells the students what do they need to do, scope, rigor, to be successful. So it's got to have some kind of strong, authentic connection. So to me, an authentic connection is something that the students create. That's why I'm such a big fan of place-based learning, although I know that's quite challenging in an urban setting. But somehow the students need to be able to make some connection to the curriculum, to their classmates perhaps, or to the community. And ideally all three, but that may or may not be possible. Some rich learning. So to me, rich learning means new learning, but also means, I know this is a vague term, but we talk about transformative learning, and that's often very misunderstood and hard to define. But to me, transformative learning means that we've learned something that now that we know it, we couldn't imagine not knowing it. It just becomes automatically part of who we are and what we know. And so I know that maybe is a bit vague, but hopefully you can see my point there. Ongoing learning. So we want it to be inspirational. Like, are you setting them up to use some kind of one of you was talking about the iNaturalist app. I downloaded it because it's very similar to the Merlin app, which I love to use for discovering new bird species and knowing which birds are in my neighborhood. So something like that can be inspirational. Theoretically supported pedagogy. So one reason we've looked at all of these approaches, I think if we understand how they work better and what are the key points of any of these approaches, it allows us to design better learning experiences for our students. So, for example, we talk a lot about the experiential learning model, And as I've said to most of you, the experiential learning model is not really a model, or it's not like one way that we learn. It is the way that we learn. And so that if we understand those four key areas and the idea of reflection, we can really design such better learning activities for our students. And of course, don't forget that we want, I think, I know some of you commented in your posts that you're not so much into technology, or you're not into social media, or what have you. But my one argument I use a lot is I think we do a disservice to our students if we don't employ, practically employ, or realistically and usefully employ some of these technology tools in our classroom. Because they do exist, they are there, and when they leave our classroom, society will expect that they can use a wide variety of tools to represent themselves, to interact with society. They need to be able to do their banking, they need to be able to manage their budget, and so forth. So we need to, teach them how to use some of these tools in a productive way and feasible. It's got to be something you can actually do. So one of the things that I look for when I read through these projects is I want to know like what level. So make sure you tell me this is for grade 3, grade 4, English, math, science. And I want to see that could you do this with your students? Is it the right level? Is it realistic? Is it achievable? And so it talks about pedagogic approaches. You can present this work in a wide variety of ways. So you may end up with multiple documents. You can ideally put these into a OneDrive or a Google Drive folder and make sure that I and your audience, meaning the other students, can access that. So you may need to put it into a personal Google Drive. If you have Google Classroom, I have a lot of problems. A lot of school boards, you can't share those outside of the school board. So just be careful how you share that. It should be designed and presented on a learning platform. And that sort of answers the technology enhanced opportunities. But really, when we talk about this idea that it's in a final presentation format, if you are presenting this on a learning platform, try to either give us some screenshots or let us in, or somehow manage to convey how will that learning platform support the activities. Because quite frankly, I do think that we can employ some of these tools in such a way that it does in fact enhance our students' learning. Some of you may disagree, but as we look at Module 5 and we look at the use of technology in the classroom from a slightly higher perspective, or more theoretical perspective, I do believe that some uses are more transformative than others. And so again, here, depending on the scope of your project, you can just do one whole project that students might do and wrap up in a couple of weeks. One thing that I've often found when I see a project that goes on for 6 months is, do the students get burnt out with the project? Even in high school, like these long-term projects, sometimes I worry that they're just like a bit too long. I spend a lot of time, I spent years teaching the capstone project with our bachelor students. And so that runs for the whole semester. And even that at the year 4 level can, be very challenging. It's just a long time. Anyways, and don't forget to write a rationale, answer these questions, and really, again, use this word count to focus your writing. And really, I gave a lot of you feedback on your assignment 1 about how can you be more concise, break your writing into smaller pieces. Don't be afraid to make a whole bunch of really short paragraphs. Those paragraphs then become learning objects in a way, or idea objects that you can then move back and forth to really sequence your ideas. And you'll often find that you can cut out quite a bit of what you've written because you've said it 2 or 3 or 4 times. So that's a key feature. And then a little bit here about how to submit it. So you can read that on your own. And there we go. Thank you so much.